Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode 88. This is the 2-year episode. The 2-year anniversary was on Tuesday of this week, February 6th. So if you've been around since that moment, I mean, shout out. It's been a couple of great years. But today's show is a huge one. We got the Super Bowl preview. It is the 49ers and the Chiefs, otherwise known as Hitler versus Stalin to many people. Not to me, but I mean, Stalin is one of the teams, but there's no Hitler in here. And then we got a great show besides that. We got a lot of segments going on today. We got the last week of Fantasy Corner, the stardom, situms, and sleepers. And then we have Tough Scene of the Week again, and we're bringing back Say Hello, Kiss It Goodbye. And that'll be the show. And I guess in the Super Bowl preview, we'll talk about the game and we'll do some bets too. Maybe not as advanced as we had last year. We had like a whole set of 10 each, top picks to go to. But I don't think we're doing that this year, which makes sense because betting's not legal in Missouri, unfortunately. kind of the G
I did
word.
sign a petition yesterday to legalize it in Missouri, so you're welcome.
I did too. I signed it to. Yeah, it was. I signed two of them. One to legalize it, and then one to. It's like the gambling boat or whatever. Like the funds that they get from that, like when they tax it, they're going to put it towards child literacy programs.
Yeah,
so I signed both of those. So I'm doing my due diligence, trying to just make the world a better place.
Exactly.
Signing my name on a piece of paper. So
yeah, I was at the bus stop yesterday when the lady asked me if I wanted to sign to legalize sports betting. And my ears I just shot up. I was dead locked into my phone, and I just shot up and I was like, yeah, I do. I would love to do that. And there we go. Got it squared away.
Yeah. So we don't have to do the parlay stuff on Underdog. That's not real sports betting. That's giving away money to a gambling app. All right. Cam, Super Bowl 58. I believe. It's a lot of Super Bowls, but we do have a Super Bowl 54 rematch. It is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you remember correctly, that was in the year of 2020, and about a month afterwards, it was announced that President Trump was going against the Democratic nominee, former Vice President Joe Biden, in the election. And I wouldn't be surprised if in about a month, it's the same thing, except it's President Biden going against former President Donald Trump. Just switch the prefixes on that. And then also, about a month after that Super Bowl, the world shut down. So I'm getting major deja vu vibes from this year already, just with 2020, which is about the worst year you can have deja vu vibes with, because that was not a great year for a lot of people. But hopefully that doesn't happen. There's still a lot of hope for this year. And this Super Bowl, I think, is going to create it. These are, you could argue, the two best teams. I mean, obviously it's the championship game, but other than the Ravens, I think everyone would agree that these are the two best teams in the league, going head to head. A lot of legacy on the line, especially on the Chiefs side of things. And a lot of cool storylines besides that. So, Cam, you got the Nick Bolton jersey on, matched with the Mizzou visor.
Yeah, I try to let people know that I am rooting for the Chiefs and Nick Bolton, but mostly because he went to Mizzou. Not a Chiefs fan, but I am a Chiefs fan in this game. Luke mentioned earlier, this is a Hitler-Stalin matchup for a lot of people. Us personally, not a Hitler versus Stalin, more of just a Stalin matchup, if you will, because we're not Chiefs haters, but neither of us like the 49ers, and Luke has been
it's not that I don't like them, I despise them.
Yeah, I mean, Luke has had the Holodomor ran on him as being a Packers fan, with the 49ers being Stalin. So pretty sad stuff there, but they are back in the Super Bowl. Two good games. from a championship weekend. One way more low scoring than we expected. And I expected it to be a lower scoring game, but 17-10 was a wild, kind of a wild score. I mean, there was like nothing going on except defense and bad turnovers by the MVP in the second half of that game. And like I said, I don't think did I think what was the score going into half? Was it
It was like 10-7, maybe
something
thirteen to
like
ten.
that? I'd have to
Um,
look, but I mean, I don't know. There was like I thought the Chiefs didn't even score in the second half.
no, I think they added a field goal. No, they didn't. It was 17-7 going into halftime.
Yeah, so
There
they
was only
just held
three
their
points
ground.
scored in the second half.
Yeah, they just held their ground. Tucker got a field goal somewhere in there down the stretch, and all you can really say about that game is that it was the two best AFC teams, and it showed in the score. And personally, I think the Ravens had the better team this year. It's just the offense couldn't get anything going. Shout out to Spags on for the Chiefs and having that defense ready to go. But Lamar once again, just can't get it done in the playoffs. There's been some interesting comparisons going around, kind of like the Joel Embiid of the NBA. I mean, literally the MVP once again, Lamar, and then this happened. So tough scene. Not a shocker though. I mean, it's Mahomes. He just wins those. He's already at
Yeah,
that level where he doesn't have to beat you in a shootout, especially this year. He can find ways to grit through games as well, and they did just that. So,
yeah. I mean, it's like I don't hate Mahomes by any means. I actually love watching him play. Um, but I also am glad that my favorite team is in the NFC because if I was a Bengals fan, if I was any AFC West team fan, if I was a Bills fan, especially, if I was, I don't know, a Dolphins fan, just pretty much any fan of an AFC team, I would hate the Chiefs because you just know you can't beat them in the playoffs. Like you're never going to go to a Super Bowl because of Patrick Mahomes. And I, that has to suck. That has to be an awful feeling. Um, I guess technically not the Bengals because the Bengals did beat them one year, but maybe that's the exception to the rule. Um, I mean, I get it. I get the hate, but I have the same thing with the 49ers. It's like, I know that I can't beat them, so I just hate them. I relate to that so hard. But yeah, the Chiefs, they defense Spags. We've said it all year. This is the best defense Patrick Mahomes has had, and it's a really good defense. He's also got a really good offensive. This is probably, other than the receiving core, this is the best team Patrick Mahomes has ever had. And you know, it, when it comes down to legacy talk, you got to win it all when you have teams like this. So, um, it's a
yeah.
big game for him for sure.
I mean,
And
he works with what he has in terms of what you're saying on offense. And all year, me and you both were like, we're just waiting for the offense to start clicking. And I'm not saying that it's clicking at a high level here in the playoffs because it's not, but it's clicking way better than it was in the regular season. And we just mentioned it once again, the defense, the defense, the defense. Best that Mahomes has had. Receiving core, probably the worst that Mahomes has had. And then the offensive line, probably the best that Mahomes has had. One problem with the offensive line going into the Super Bowl, though, is I don't think Joe Thuney is going to be able to play, which is
he
a
hasn't played all
huge
playoffs.
blow. It is a
So,
huge blow. Yeah, he hasn't been playing much during the playoffs at all, really, but it's still a big blow when you have to go up against that front seven of the 49ers, who have been a little lackadaisical in the playoffs, but I don't know. You always, that doesn't mean you can rule out that front seven of the 49ers, though, really. But yeah, you do have to win the Super Bowls when you're trying to get to the top of the mountain like Mahomes, when you have these great defenses, and then you just have to do your part. I mean, let's be real. This would be his first Super Bowl win where it's the defense kind of winning the Super Bowl and not Mahomes. I'm talking about. I mean, Tom Brady had a few of those, like the win over the Rams, the win over the Rams again. Those Super Bowls. So you got to win some of those, and I think you will. We'll get to that in a moment, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said the offense really hasn't clicked. I don't know if they've really needed to. They haven't really needed to have a lot of explosive plays. They haven't really needed to put the team on their shoulders like they have in past years. So they have kind of been coasting. I've noticed like they don't go for the big plays as often. They do the small ball. They run the ball. They take down the clock. And if they need to, I have no doubt that Mahomes can just pull it out and just start going to work on the 49ers defense in the Super Bowl. I have no doubt about that at all. But yeah, I mean,
We've
the
seen it
offensive line,
before.
yeah, exactly, many times. The offensive line hasn't given up a sack until the second half of the Ravens game, like all postseason. Fantastic. This this Chiefs team is somehow underrated, I think. But we'll get to the preview. But the NFC Championship, on the other hand, complete opposite. I mean, this was kind of an offensive game as opposed to the defensive game, and just a really, really sad scene for the Lions. But this is kind of just, this is the perfect representation of their franchise. This is one of their greatest teams that they've ever had. They got so close. I mean, 27-7 at halftime, but you just knew, I think, watching that game, maybe not, but as an impartial fan in that game that was rooting for the Lions, I just knew 27-7 at halftime, it's the Lions. Like, this is not safe at all. It's a big lead for sure, but it's still the Lions. And while it isn't the same old Lions that we've seen, they did come out in the second half of this game. And I mean, they quite literally handed the game to the 49ers. Countless dropped passes. I mean, obviously, the drop pass by Josh Reynolds on fourth down is being talked about a bunch. But, I mean, Jamison Williams had a wide open touchdown, and it just went right through his hands. There was Amon-Ra had a few drops. The
Jamar Gibbs
defense,
going the wrong way and fumbling.
yeah, the fumble, that wasn't even touched by the other team. It was just like a mishap. The punt thing, like in the end zone, where it was literally a perfect punt, and the guy just forgot how to down a punt, and it went into the end zone. They did about everything wrong. They didn't convert anything, and the 49ers, I mean, credit to them, they took advantage of it and they got back in the game quickly and turned the momentum very, very quickly. And before you know it, it's tied, and then the 49ers take the lead. Dan the man went, stayed. I respect him for this. He stayed true to his game. He continued to go for it on fourth down, and it didn't work out. But the first fourth down that they went for, I think I turned to you and you were like, I don't know why they didn't kick the field goal there. I was like, I don't mind that one. Like when they're up 14, they're trying to extend the lead, step on their throats. But the one where you're down by 3 in the fourth quarter, that one might be one where you have to take the field goal. So there's just something about tying up the game in that situation that just feels good. If you tie up the game, regardless of what happens to your defense, you're still going to have a chance to at least tie up the game on offense. So I think in that situation, you kind of have to take it. But at the end of the day, that's their game. They play aggressive. They go for it on fourth down, and it just didn't work out. And that's how it happens. But unfortunately, the 49ers advanced to the Super Bowl, and somehow, some way, Kyle Shanahan is actually developing into a good playoff coach. I never thought I'd say it, but watching the 2 games that he's been in this year in the postseason, he's made a lot of good adjustments throughout the course of the game, which is something he doesn't usually do. So we'll see if he can continue it in the Super Bowl, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully not, obviously. But
Yeah.
Going back to the Lions and Dan Campbell, and I agree with your stance that he stuck with his fourth down calls. My reasoning, when we were just watching the game together, talking about it, The one in the first half, when you're up 14, you have the chance to really step on their throats and kind of end it. Um, but then again, at the same time, you have a chance to make it a 3 possession game anyway with the field goal. So sure, 21's more than 17. Both are 3-score games. And then the time in the second half as well when you're down, if you don't get that, you pretty much it pretty much loses the game no matter what. Because now you're down by 10 and they have the ball. If you make it a 3-point game, you still have a valiant effort will keep you in that game after that field goal if you do make it. So I don't know. That spot down the stretch,
down by 10. What are you talking about?
they
Oh,
went
like
down
at
by
the
10.
very end?
Yeah, they went down by 10 after they missed that field goal. Or they after they didn't kick that field goal.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much over after that. So
Yeah. The timeout is what you're talking
and
about.
then the timeout was a
Yeah.
major thing. They what did they
They ran the
the
ball
they ran the
with
ball
less than a minute. Yeah.
with less than a minute to go down on the goal line, which I get it. You've been able to do that all year long, but you just have to think about the possibility of if you don't get it. And they didn't, and they had to call timeout, and that led you to having to do an onside kick. Onside kicks don't work in this decade. They used to work a little bit back in the mid to 2010s, but and even better in the early 2000s. But now they're pretty much non-existent in terms of recovering it with the rules, in terms of player safety. But it pretty much eliminates recovering them. So you lost at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think those points in the game, it's kind of momentum. Yeah, you can step on their throat, but sometimes it's all right to be a little conservative to preserve some of what you got going.
Oh yeah. I mean that's for sure. I don't know. It didn't work out for them. It was they got Lions in the end, and they came up short of their first ever Super Bowl appearance. It's kind of crazy that they haven't ever been to a Super Bowl, despite having a chance literally every single year. Like there's some teams like the Texans, they've never been to a Super Bowl, but they've only had the opportunity for like 20 of them. Like the Lions have been around for all 58, all 58 of them. So it's kind of crazy, just to think about. But yeah, that sets it up for 49ers, Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I don't even know how this game's going to go. I could see it being an offensive like shootout, but I could also see it being a defensive battle. So I don't really know. I'm excited just to watch and see how it plays out. I'm obviously will be rooting for Mahomes because I hate the 49ers and their fans. And I'm a Mahomes legacy guy. I wasn't really a huge fan of Brady. I respect his what he was able to do in the league, but he never amazed me quite like Mahomes has and continues to do. So for that reason, I root for Mahomes to match Tom Brady's legacy. Same reason I'm rooting for LeBron to match Michael Jordan's legacy. Although Michael Jordan was a little bit more on the amazing side than what Brady was, um, that's for sure. But it would be. I mean, even when the Rams won the Super Bowl, there were still some positives. There were a lot of guys like Stafford winning a Super Bowl. Like we were like happy for him. Aaron Donald, we were happy for him. There are a lot of guys like that have just poured their heart and soul out. And I think if the 49ers win, you have to look at a guy like Trent Williams, like all the adversity that he's been through. I mean, being in Washington and just having all those scandals against him for so many years. And then, being here at the 49ers and, coming up short a lot of these years. For him to get one would be really, really cool. For Brock Purdy, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not his biggest fan because he's on the 49ers, but his story, you can't deny it, is incredible. Being the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, and then going on to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback just 2 years later. I mean, that's out of a movie. You cannot make that up. It's unheard of. Basically, an undrafted player being a starting quarterback on a Super Bowl winning team. That would just be amazing. Um, there's a lot of guys like Deebo Samuel, just an all-out heart guy. He puts his heart and soul out there, playing whatever they need him to do on offense. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, a lot of these guys, you'd just be so happy for them to get the Super Bowl. But in the end, it's got to be Chiefs. So
Yeah. The one thing, in terms of guys that I would be happy for, I was running through the ringer in through my head of absolute just football guys that I would be happy for if they won the Super Bowl. George Kittle is one just
yes,
all-time football guy. And then Trent Williams is definitely the other one. And I was thinking maybe Christian McCaffrey. He might be an all-time football guy too. And then on the outside looking in terms of all-time football guys, Debo, Nick Bosa, and then maybe
Kyle
like
Juszczyk even.
Kyle
I don't know,
Juszczyk,
what he does as a
maybe
fullback is unheard of.
maybe some of the defensive guys, Fred Warner and stuff. Maybe because I don't know as much about them, but George Kittle, I
Dre
know,
Greenlaw.
all time football guy, and same with Trent Williams, all time football guys. Shanahan, all time football guy, but
Nah.
I don't know. I wouldn't be mad for those guys. Those guys are some football guys that do deserve to have their name etched in history forever. But there's some football guys on the Chiefs too.
Oh yeah, but
So
the thing about that is they've all won.
they've
Like,
won.
they all won last year, so
Yeah, they have won.
yeah, that would be cool. We haven't had a repeat champion, and I think it's been over 20 years,
Yeah,
almost 20 years, something like that. It's right
it was
around that mark.
it was 03 and 04 Patriots. So
Yeah, which I do believe was Tom Brady's second and third Super Bowls won. So, I mean, if Mahomes goes back to back, it's his second and third Super Bowls. So, I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty crazy. It's a copy. We're talking about deja vu earlier with the year. This is deja vu of a career right here. Just a little bit better, probably. It's insane. It's crazy. Brock Purdy's trying to be the third quarterback to beat Mahomes in the playoffs. I think we were talking about that. Burrow and Brady are the only two to beat him.
Burrow,
Also
Brady, and
crazy.
Brock could be triple Bs.
Yeah, killer bees. But yeah, I like I said, I don't know how this game's going to go. I'm picking the 49ers, though. Just because I've picked against the Chiefs the last 2 weeks and they've advanced. So I'm going to keep that strategy up. But also, I do think this is the window for the 49ers. Like, if they don't win this one, you're going to have to start thinking, like, as a front office, as a coaching staff, like, well, are we ever going to get that? Are we ever going to get the big one? This is the team that they feel confident in. This is one of the most complete teams ever. There's hardly any holes on this team other than, I will say, the kicking position is actually probably a hole on this team since Robbie Gould retired, unfortunately for them. But that could come up big, just something to look out for. Jake Moody he was one of the best college kickers, but he's been very shaky this year, his first year in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's it. So, but John Lynch he's built it up for this year. This is the team. And if they don't win it this year, they probably won't. They won't win it ever. So
Yeah.
that's why I think this is it. They got to win it now.
You look at their roster though, and the contracts that they've got. It'd basically be the same team next year, I think, at least on offense. I'm not entirely sure about the defense, but I'm pretty sure it's basically the same. So I think the window would still be open for next year too. And looking at the NFC, there's not a whole lot of crazy things going on over there, so they would have a great chance.
You're talking about up north. There's some crazy things
I
going on.
I know about Zip.
Get
Don't
Zip.
worry, but I've got the Chiefs in this one. And you just talked about the kicking game, and I agree. I think it's going to be important because I have the Chiefs winning another low-scoring game, 20-17. So going to be a low-scoring defensive battle, I think. But I was just thinking, John Lynch with this team, the amount of actual future Hall of Famers on the 49ers is kind of nuts. So I was thinking, some of these guys have to have prolonged careers, like they're going to have to keep going. But in terms of guys that I just off the top of my head, Debo, possible Hall of Famer. He falls into the group that needs to keep playing and needs to do probably a little something more, but probably some surefire. George Kittle, McCaffrey, and Trent Williams. Probably all surefire Hall of Famers. And then on the
Yeah.
defense, you look at two linebackers that also have Hall of Fame potential, but need to play much longer, obviously.
Yeah.
But Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner both. Obviously, Dre Greenlaw being the lesser of the two in terms of having a shot. And then obviously,
Bosa.
I don't know if there's going to be any question about Nick Bosa. I mean,
he's definitely, unless he just falls off a cliff.
Yeah, unless he falls off like his brother did. But Nick has been better than his brother from the start. So, it wouldn't shock me. And then there's a couple other good defensive linemen on the 49ers that would have to have some tremendous careers. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a team that you look back on in history and you would just be like, man, they had all those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't win. So that's why I think that they have to win this one, and that's why I'm picking them. But some other things to pick. Obviously, we don't have a lot of the betting lines, but we do have the Super Bowl, the fun Super Bowl bets. Like the coin toss is always millions of dollars are bet on a coin toss every year, and that's just I find it fascinating. I would never do it. I would pick it just for fun, but I would never place any real money on it. Even though I think I have in my past, but those days are behind me. It was very small, minimal amounts.
I would never, he says.
I will never anymore. I got heads, so yeah, take that.
Yeah, really, there's not a whole lot of thought that goes back into this.
None, actually.
I'm just going with tails never fails. I think I did it the last 2 years, and I think it's 1-1. So I what can you say? Better than Punxsutawney Phil. We'll get to that.
Yeah, true. And then Gatorade color, I don't know. I feel like we haven't had a yellow Gatorade in a while. Could be wrong.
It's definitely possible. I see this one has the three most bet on Gatorades. I feel like have to be orange, yellow, and red this Super Bowl. I feel like I've seen both teams pour orange, yellow, or red on their coach between these two teams. And, so it's the original colors pretty much. Both teams are red and have like shades of yellow. Obviously. Yep. The 49ers is a gold, but you get the point. And then orange just always seems to be out there, So I'm going to go orange because I feel like red, yellow, both teams have those. For some reason, I just think it's going to fall somewhere in the middle, orange.
Yeah, I see that, but at the same time, like I know that a popular bet's going to be red because both of these teams' primary colors are red.
Absolutely.
That never happens. The team that wins never has their primary color as their Gatorade color. So the reason people are betting on that, they just don't know ball. But yellow is the secondary color of both of these teams, or gold, close enough. And there's a chance that they could do that. But I would say my main bet would be yellow, and then I'd place a smaller amount on blue. I think blue actually just one of the most random ones, but I think that, I don't know, blue Gatorade could, we're in Las Vegas. I mean, blue Gatorade. I'd put a small amount on that, but yeah, exactly. But I do just like watching yellow Gatorade being poured on the coach because it looks just like a whole bucket of piss is just being poured on the coach. It's pretty funny. So
nice.
That's my analysis. The analysis that really matters is what this is. And then I just have another bet. I don't know what the money is going to be on this. It's probably got a negative sign in front of it, but you still have to take it, and it's the Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown. He gets it almost every game, and especially against this Chiefs run defense. It's not great. That's their weakness, is the run defense. And, I mean, they get within the 10-yard line. He's guaranteed to get a touchdown. So, yeah.
I'd be interested to see what the Trent Williams anytime touchdown score that is.
You're getting a little too cute with this, Cam.
I know that is cute, but it's the Super Bowl. and it's the Super Bowl, and it's Shanahan. He loves his players. He loves Trent Williams. He's probably one of the best players that Kyle Shanahan has ever coached or ever will coach. So, I can see them trying to do that. But yeah, that's a little too in depth.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a little sicko.
I don't know if I'd take that one. I think it would be cool if it happened, but I don't know if I would place money
you
on
could
that
just
happening.
sprinkle. What's a little $5, $10
donation? And then just whatever the Mahomes over is on touchdowns too. He always hits it in the Super Bowl. Except for the Buccaneers one, but if he wins, he's going to hit it. So
he technically hit it in the Buccaneers one. He hit people in the face with the football. Yeah. He tried to stick it in between Tyreek Hill's face mask in the Super Bowl,
and it just bounced right off. Yeah.
So whatever.
All right, that's Super Bowl talk. Reba McEntire is singing the national anthem, so I would expect that to be in under 2 minutes. I don't know what the official is, but I know 2 minutes is usually the common betting line. I'd take the under on that one. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like she could drag out some Free, Brave.
I thought the same thing about Chris Stapleton last year because he's a slow singer. He likes to drag it out, and he sang it super quickly. So I'm doing reverse logic this year. Like Reba, you're like, oh, she'll drag out some of these notes. I don't think so. I think she'll make it up. Free and Brave, maybe she'll drag those out. But I think she'll make up the speed, with other verses.
Gotcha.
So,
shout out Ruby Lee. Ruby Lee was at the Mizzou game last night. Did the national anthem and sang a bunch of songs at halftime. So, shout out Ruby Lee. Second place, but still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like the Eagles.
Yeah.
Second place, but still pretty cool. She is a good singer, though. I will say that.
Yeah, it was cool.
I didn't realize that she was there. That is cool. It'd be a great national anthem to listen to. So, all right, you want to get to Fantasy Corner?
Yeah.
First, we have a quick word from one of our sponsors. It's just the Chiefs. Just go Chiefs. Sorry, that was dumb.
I don't get that. I don't get that joke. Sorry.
That was bad.
All right, Super Bowl 58, last week of Stardom, Sit-'em, Sleeper. Fantasy Corner, if you will. Although sometimes we tend to just bring it back in the middle of baseball season. I feel like sometimes or something
just
like
one
that.
Week here and there.
But all right, my Stardom is MVS, Luke, and you might be like, "What the fuck?" Why are you starting MVS? Why are you starting MVS in the Super Bowl? I don't know. So last week he had that weird catch at the end. I think it is going to be another deja vu situation, and he is going to make another weird game-sealing play. So start MVS. Probably only going to have 2 receptions, but the second one is going to seal the deal. You can also pencil him in for a huge drop in this game. So 2 receptions on 3 or 4 targets with 1 massive drop, but he is going to catch that one at the end that's going to seal it. So start MVS.
The drop will probably be on a 3rd down.
Yeah.
And then Chiefs fans will call for his execution on Twitter, and then he'll end up sealing the game, and they'll be like, "Oh, I apologize."
Yeah.
It's how it happens the last 3 weeks. So
he's probably going to have one attached to his face mask, and he'll probably figure out a way to drop it. But yeah, so my sit-'em is Tony Romo, Luke. So it's Jim Nance and Tony doing the Super Bowl, and I think America is finally starting to come around to the idea that at best Tony Romo is an okay commentator. The only thing that Tony Romo has is his ability that he did play football at the NFL level, and he can call formations, plays, and stuff like that. He can still call stuff like that out, but you can just tell up in the booth he does not put in nearly as much prep as he used to, and he just makes weird noises all the time, and he he just says random stuff that does not relate to the game, which can at times be funny, but he's not Bill Walton. You don't have this granted access to do that, Tony. For America's sake, I hope he does prepare extraneously because it's the freaking Super Bowl. And I know Jim will come prepared, so no need to worry there. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and sit Tony though, get ahead of the curve. Luckily, we won't have to deal with this for a while. I think next year it's either NBC or Tom Brady next year. So
It's not Tom Brady. I think he's the year after. Yeah, I believe it's NBC, and then I believe it's back to Tom Brady at Fox, and then I think it's ESPN with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
Oh my
It'll be the
gosh,
first
that'll
Super
be
Bowl on
awesome.
ESPN. Which, yeah, I mean
that will be awesome. Joe and Troy in the Super Bowl will be sweet. Let's go.
One thing you did mention, I'm going to look up that, but you talked about Tony Romo. He knows formations and he played in the game. That's literally every color commentator in history has played the game and they can call out formations. So he doesn't have anything special. I think really
he's played it the most recently, really though. Like I'll admit,
Greg Olsen.
I don't want to. Yeah, but he did not play quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Greg's better than Tony, no doubt about it. But I'm not. You can't sit there and say, as somebody who also played football and played quarterback, Tony calls stuff out, before it happens all the time, and it's like, yeah, you do have to know the game to know shit like that. So he does know. He just doesn't try as much anymore, I don't think. So that's on him. So you can't sit here and say that he doesn't know ball because he does, but he just I don't know. He doesn't do what he should. So yeah. My sleeper though, Luke, is Stan Kroenke. Now you might be, how did Stan sneak into the Super Bowl preview? Well, 3 days ago, the University of Missouri received a $62 million anonymous donation, record donation anonymously. And, so as soon as we got the donation, it's a big, he said, she said, let's try and figure out who it was. And nobody can really pin it. And actually, I've seen some people say that it's definitely not Stan, but I'm still holding out that it could be Stan.
I hope it isn't. I don't want to have to celebrate.
Look, I hope it isn't either. But we talked about this. If anybody's going to do this, it would be Stan. He loves winning. We've kind of been waiting for him to make a donation like this to his alma mater. He never has, that we know of. And here it is. If it is him, right when the football team's good, the basketball team was really good last year. Obviously, they sucked this year, but that's a story for another rainy day.
Yeah,
and I feel like it just could be him. He's just kind of a weirdo in the sense, like, he doesn't want people to know it's him, but also, like, if you think about it, you'll know that it was him. That sort of thing. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I don't think he's trying to buy people back into liking him because, half the people that go here, if not more than half, like the Chiefs anyway, don't care about, what he did to St. Louis. And like the other half is like, hates his guts like we do. But I don't know. I feel like he might be trying to sneak this one in there.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this the other day, and I said that $62 million is a lot of money. I mean, to make a one-time donation, that is a ton of money to make. And you don't just get people that throw around that type of money. I mean, you have to have hundreds of millions of dollars to make that big of a donation, at least, probably billions. How many billionaires went to Mizzou? There's not that many of them. Obviously, we looked it up the other day, and Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, actually graduated from Mizzou, which is pretty crazy. But how many people would donate that much money? The largest donation in the history of Missouri history. Like, that's crazy. Stan Kroenke, if he did make that donation, he would not want to put his name on it. And there's a reason. I mean, $62 million anonymously, who would donate? Who has that much money to
It's
donate
not that
and
many
would not
people.
want to put their name on it? It's a small group of people. I mean, and it would make sense for him not to put his name on it because all his teams that he owns have won. Like all his professional sports teams have won in the past like 3 years. He's just been on one. And Mizzou is the one team that hasn't. And I mean, obviously he doesn't own them, but he did graduate here, and I know he roots for him. And he sees this football program is primed to have its best year maybe ever in the history of Mizzou. And so he's trying to invest as much money into it now. I don't know. I don't know. It's just
It's
it's
interesting.
yeah.
Don't sleep on this. Don't sleep on Stan here. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my fantasy corner. So,
Yeah. And a follow up on the future of the Super Bowl broadcasts. I was wrong. Fox is next year. So Tom Brady is going to be calling the Super Bowl next year. So once again, Tom Brady back in the Super Bowl. I mean, we escaped him for 3 years, but he'll be back. And then afterwards, it's on NBC and Peacock, then ABC and ESPN with Joe Buck and Troy. And then we're back to CBS. So whoever, I don't know if Jim will still be doing it. I don't know if Tony will still be doing it. It could be a whole new broadcast by then. And then it's Fox, NBC, ABC, and then it's just like the same rotation of that afterwards.
Gotcha.
So it could be easy to remember after that if you just have like the same, like every 4 years, this broadcasting team gets it. All right, my stardom, I have two of them. I always seem to have two stardoms for whatever reason. Is winter colds. So we are in prime cold season. I battled one at the beginning of last week. I'm pretty much over it now. I still got a little bit of congestion, but nothing too serious. But yeah, I mean it's a couple of days where it just sucks. I mean, like you don't physically feel incapable of anything, but you're just blowing your nose so much and you can't breathe sometimes, and it just sucks. It's brutal. You're cooped up in your room because you don't want to be around people because you feel disgusting. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely they're getting the best of a lot of people right now, especially like in group settings, at work, at school. I mean, you're watch out for them. They're on a hot streak right now, and they're only going to get better throughout the month of February. So, and then my other stardom is, I don't want to jinx it here. I'm going to preface this. I'm knocking on wood right now. Kanye West. I know you're knocking on wood with me. We're starting Kanye because he is set to, well, by the time this show comes out, his album should be out. His new album with Ty Dolla $ign should be out. Hopefully it is. He's already released a few songs from it. So that hints to me that it is happening for real. It's not going to get postponed this time. So if you're a Kanye fan out there, this is a big moment. He hasn't released an album in quite a few years. So
3, yeah.
Maybe his longest gap ever without releasing an album. I think maybe between Yeezus and Life of Pablo, it was a 3-year gap.
I was going to say.
But, yeah. So yeah, start that. No other reason to start Kanye other than that. I'll say that. And my sit-em is the NCAA. They are crumbling. They are falling to pieces. So this week, the SEC and Big Ten formed a pack. And obviously, both of those conferences have been expanding their teams tremendously through the last few years. And next year, they're both going to get a huge bolster in teams. They're definitely the two power conferences, at least in football, and in basketball, they're right up there. I mean, the Big 12 and ACC are competitive in basketball as well, but they formed a pack. And I think that within a matter of a few years, they're gonna break away from the NCAA and just form college football, and then they'll have their own set of rules and NIL and transfer rules and stuff like that. And the NCAA is going to be left without an arm and a leg, probably, because college football is their biggest moneymaker. And I wouldn't be shocked if, right after that happens, a lot of conferences from basketball start to move away too and form their own union. And then the NCAA is going to be walking around like a chicken without a head. They're really not going to know what to do. But I mean, they've had this coming for a while. They've been screwing over people and athletes for years upon years. I mean, back to before the Brian Bosworth days. I mean, he was really the first person to call him out, and pretty much every player that has played in the NCAA, at least before the NIL era, basically hates him because they screwed him out of millions of dollars, which is fair. I mean, it's a fair gripe, and I mean, the NCAA lives by the paradox of, well, we're not going to pay them because they're amateurs, they're not professionals. But who says they're amateurs? The NCAA. So it's just like they live in a paradox of control, and it's crumbling. And obviously, the Dartmouth. I didn't know about this until you said this, Cam. But the Dartmouth basketball team recently filed a case in court, and they won. So now they're allowed to be paid as employees of the university, I believe.
They can form their own union. The big thing is that they can form their own union. What you can only do is if you're employees of a place of work, so and stuff like that. So,
and then the other big thing was the University of Tennessee was accused of. Let's see here if I can. Tennessee under investigation. So they were under investigation for NIL violations across multiple sports. And the AD of Tennessee basically came out the other day and said it's all bullshit. And they published everything, like all their records, NIL wise and stuff, and said, here, public, take a look at this. If you see anything wrong, blah, blah, blah. And now the NCAA, they're pulling back that investigation, saying actually they didn't do anything wrong. Here's the quote from Tennessee Chancellor. It says, the NCAA's allegations are factually untrue and procedurally flawed. Moreover, it is intellectually dishonest for the NCAA enforcement staff to pursue infractions cases as if student athletes have no NIL rights and as if institutions all have been functioning post-Alston with a clear and unchanging set of rules and willfully violating them. And so Tennessee is just firing right back at them. And I don't think the NCAA is going to want to take this one to court because over the past few years, they have stepped up to bat in court and swung and missed every time. I mean, they look like Paul DeYoung up there. So, yeah, definitely sit the NCAA.
gonna look like you against Taylor Brown.
Yeah. I try not to think about that. It's going to be that's going to be a tough scene whenever the time comes. But yes. And I mean, you could also sit Mizzou basketball. I really don't want to get into that on the Super Bowl episode. You know, vibes are high on a day like today, and I really don't want to bring it down with Mizzou basketball. That's just a big tough scene though. And then my sleeper is the Apple Vision Pro. So the Apple Vision Pro came out on last Friday or Saturday. I don't remember what day it was, but last weekend it came out. And basically, this is just the future of technology. If you've seen anything about it, you can have like your own avatar in online meetings. You can have, it's just like a new form of technology. You have like a whole screen in front of you, but you can also like see your surroundings. Like it's just like having goggles on, but like stuff is projected out in front. It's one of the coolest things ever. It's super expensive right now, but I have a feeling I think we were talking about this the other day, within 5 years, we wouldn't be surprised if like kids are wearing this to school and just doing their schoolwork that way.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
This is one of those things where, it's a moment in history where you're like the iPhone, like that really just changed, not just, the technology, but it changed society as a whole. I mean, everyone has a phone nowadays. And I have a feeling, I don't know if this will have quite the same effect as that, because I don't know if the benefits are quite as high as the cell phone was. But there's going to be quite a bit of people that start using this because it's going to be a great tool for efficiency. And it's also pretty cool at the same time. So, yeah, sleeper, because I think that's just going to slide right under the radar. And before you know it, everyone will have one.
Yeah, it's possible. I only brought up the Taylor Brown thing because she was at the Mizzou played Texas A&M yesterday, and her and Nicholas Lucido were there. So
shout out,
kind of rubbing it in.
Yeah, it was a little
couldn't say anything mean back. So
yeah, I mean, what are you gonna say?
Yeah,
they got lucky. It obviously isn't true.
I don't know. So, all
But
right.
shout out.
Tough scene of the week? Man, we got a lot. We'll see
Yeah.
how far we
3 of
get
them are
here.
yours. Well, one of them was it was a mutual. The first one here, I was going to put it on there too, but you already had it. So
Yeah. Some big deaths for tough scene of the week this week. Toby Keith passed away, which was it's just tough scene. It's just a tough scene. That's really all you can say about it. Luke might pass away here as well here in a moment, but he's only 62 years
that's
old.
my tribute to Toby Keith.
Yeah. Never mind. Only 62 years old, died of, I think it was stomach cancer. Um, just a lot of all-time bops, especially if you're a country music fan. So it was just sad. He's a big figure in country music and music in general, and society. Really in terms of influencing culture here in the States. So
Yeah, big time patriot. I mean,
big
I
time patriot.
I remember after 9/11, he released like a whole album that had to do with just like pro America after the 9/11, and it helped a lot of people get through that tough time. And I mean, he stood by the. I mean, patriot is a term that gets thrown around for a number. It's got a stereotype behind it now, but I mean,
Yeah,
he was somebody who really he he bled red, white, and blue, and 62 isn't exactly young, but I mean, this day and age, if you're dying at 62, it's dying prematurely.
yeah,
But I didn't realize he was that old. Like when I saw it, I was like Toby Keith died, and I was like, oh, I guess he has been around for a while. So I
yeah.
didn't realize he had cancer either. But yeah,
And then Carl Weathers passed away. Played played Apollo Creed and Rocky. Obviously, those are probably his biggest roles, but he was in so much other stuff um, after that as well, and just was a big Hollywood figure. I had no idea this part. He played for the Raiders back in the day. Um,
really,
yeah, played
I didn't know that
linebacker
either.
for the Raiders for 2 years. He's in Star Wars. He's in the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett in those recent shows, and he was one of my favorite characters in that show. So that was tough. Like I said, he was in some other stuff, and another big, a patriot of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
another big America
Huge.
guy. So that was another tough passing away. He was
Yeah.
76, I want to say. Still, I don't know what the cause was of that. I'd have to look.
Yeah.
And they may
For
not know yet
someone for
exactly.
someone with as much money as him, that is a little bit early
Yeah.
to go. But I mean, yeah, not many people get to say that they were in both the Rocky and Star Wars franchises. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
those are two of the
crazy.
biggest franchises ever, and he was in both of them. Obviously, his role in Star Wars was a lot lesser than than Rocky, but I mean, yeah, those Rocky movies talk about talk about being a patriot. I mean that two American icons just passed away
Yeah.
this week, and it was a tough week for America.
Yeah.
Got
Um,
bombed in Iran. Yeah, it
well,
sucks. Yeah,
um, and then Patrick Mahomes Sr. got another DUI. So that's another tough scene. Just another thing added to the plate for regular Patrick Mahomes, I guess you will. So I think it was his third. His mugshot was not ideal. Um,
what mugshot is other than
yeah,
Trump's,
I
really.
know, but I mean, he looked a little fried and just, uh, I mean, just his smile, just it was just a tough scene, and that's really all you can say. I think he might have to serve jail time. So I don't know.
No, he
Um,
should. I mean, you get one DUI, it's like, hey, everyone overestimates their abilities every now and then. The second one, there should be a punishment, but I mean, it shouldn't ruin your life or anything. But you get the third time is kind of like the nail in the coffin. It's like,
yeah, it's like
yeah,
okay, buddy.
you need to learn a little bit of a lesson here. I mean, that put the nail in the coffin for Dan McLaughlin, our beloved Cardinals announcer. This past off season, lost his job, and I know obviously this Mahomes doesn't have a job right now. He's just kind of retired, but yeah, just another one bites the dust for around Patrick. I guess that is the good part about him is that he has other people in his family that take the downfall for him. His wife is actually benefiting from this too because now his brother, who was hated just for being incredibly annoying and cringy, but then he has sexually assaulted that one woman, and now his father is getting DUIs left and right, and now it's making his wife look better because her knock was just that she was annoying. that was it. So now it's like, no, she's actually a good human. It's just a little annoying at times, but aren't we all? So
Yeah. So yeah. And then another tough scene was, you could actually put this on the maybe tough scene. Drake's meat got leaked on the internet, and anybody who's seen the video would say, maybe it's not so much of a tough scene, because in terms of size, it was it's out there. It's out there. That's all I'm saying is that it was large. So for in terms of statistical analysis, that's what we have to say. So yeah, but I would still,
card.
me personally, I think that's still a tough scene. Having your genitals, I guess, leaked on the internet, even if you do have that much money, that's crazy. I don't know if he's pressing charges. I don't know if he knows who it was or not. I'm assuming he would, because the person who took the video had to have been in the room at the same time with him. I'm sure you can recognize the room, who was there, and whatever. So I'm sure that person might have a giant court case coming their way if he does file. But yeah, crazy scene. Did spark a lot of memes on Twitter, and they're still going on.
Good. I like
great memes. I think my favorite meme was just like, it would just show a picture. It would be like a bunch of famous accounts posted this, like meme accounts posted, like it was just like they would just go to their search tab, and it would just be like Drake's meat leaked, Drake's meat. It's like them trying to search for it, but it's not popping up. So they keep trying all the different ones, like. So that those were the good ones that I thought were pretty good. So yeah, Drake's meat got leaked. Any thoughts, Luke?
No comment.
No comment. There you go.
My only comment is I'm putting that on a quote card.
I don't know if we got to do all that.
I think we have to. You never, through that whole thing, you never said no homo. So I also haven't seen the video. I just saw that it happened, and I saw a lot of the memes. I actually have not seen the video.
I saw it before. I'll be honest. I saw it, like, I woke up, I was getting ready for school, and saw it on Twitter. I didn't even know it was like trending yet. And I saw it, and then as soon as I saw it, I was like, there's no way this isn't trending. And then I went over to like trending, and it was just like Drizzy was trending. So, which is obviously code word for Drake. So that was a tough scene. That's all you gotta say.
Yeah. I did see that Drake is he's scheduled to come to St. Louis for a concert on Monday with J. Cole.
Yes.
So I don't know where that I figured I would have heard about that. I mean, those are two huge names coming to St. Louis, and I just till now I hadn't heard.
Do you use Spotify?
I don't. I'm an Apple Music user.
I listen to Drake quite a bit, so like it sent me like all kinds of stuff, like emails, notifications that Drake was coming to St. Louis like a long time ago. So
gotcha.
But
I mean, I do it just to see J. Cole, but all-time musician right there. And then the last tough scene is kind of a tough scene, I guess, for Brits, but King Charles has cancer. So,
stage 4, buddy.
Like, yeah, stage 4 prostate cancer, I want to say it was.
I think it was colon. I don't know.
Colon cancer. I think they said they've discovered it during a prostate exam. So
gotcha.
That could be colon cancer too. But yeah, bad. He's basically on his deathbed now. So
you can come back from 4 with those types of cancers, I believe. if it's
Oh,
colon.
okay.
Colon is like one of the, because it's like one of the most diagnosed. I think it's one of the most cured too. So,
Gotcha. Well, okay. Well, maybe not then. I take that back.
but he could die. He's old. Cancer's
Yeah.
tough. The
Uh,
treatments is. So,
it could be a short reign for King Charles.
yeah.
I wonder who it would go to then. Would it go to King Charles, his son? I don't know who it is, but I
I,
don't know
I,
who would be next
I'm
in
going to
line. It's
cut you
not.
off right there. Very un American to be talking about this. So,
Well,
Letterman.
it's
Three-year
actually very
Letterman would
American to be
strike this
confused,
down.
right? Very American to be confused on what's happening here. Like I have no idea who's next.
That
I
is
hope it's
American, but we should stop talking about
yeah.
it.
I just hope I will say this. I hope it's not the pedophile guy. Andrew, I think is his name.
That's
But
a good take. That you can put that. That's a good take to have out there. You're hopeful it's not the pedophile guy.
yeah, bad guy. He doesn't deserve it. Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
that's it. We'll leave it at that because you're right. This is I mean, we saluted two American icons. We can't be talking about the British monarchy any more than what we already have. So,
Yeah.
all right. And then to wrap up the show here, Cam, we got the return of Say Hello, Kiss It Goodbye.
Yep.
We had a little tease last week with the Matt Carpenter Say Hello, but I think it's back in full force now. Now
Yeah.
that Fancy Corner will be over.
So, kind of over to American royalty. Nick Saban. Say hello to Nick Saban on College Game Day. I think starting next year, and I'll just say it. I mean, that rocks. That's awesome. Like as soon as Nick Saban retired, I was really sad. I think we talked about that already a couple of weeks ago.
We talked about this being a possibility.
Yeah,
too.
I was just like, I just hope he's still around the game. What better way to be around the game than being on College Game Day? So he will be. I think this is going to be awesome too because Nick is actually pretty funny. If like you really like get into conversation with them, a lot of his former players and recruits say that. Other past coaches will say that. Like he's not in like a super serious mode, he can be quite funny. And he's been on like the ESPN panels before during the games and before games and stuff, but he's usually pretty locked in even for those. It feels like College Game Day you can kind of let loose a little bit. So I'm excited for that for Nick. So
yeah.
that should be pretty sweet for him.
I think this also kind of signals the end of the Lee Corso era. I don't want to. I know it's kind of this would be like the saddest thing, but Lee Corso he's old. He's getting very very old, and I remember I think it was 2 years ago they were in like Montana State or something like that, and it was -degrees, and they made Lee Corso go up there and like sit outside in the negative temperatures, and I felt bad for him. But I mean, this is what happens with game day. You just have a legendary coach that comes in and takes that role. And I could honestly see Nick Saban like kind of taking the reins from Lee Corso. Like Lee Corso will have it this year, maybe even one more year after that. But then after that, it's like, all right, Lee, like he retires, and then Nick Saban becomes the guy to put on,
I don't
the
know if
mascot head.
I don't know if
I think that would be awesome.
I don't know if they'll ever have somebody do that
Yeah,
again.
they might have to find a different way to pick the team or something like that. That's true.
I mean, Nick Saban is. If you look at Lee Corso's coaching career, he really didn't win much at all. But Nick Saban, this guy has won in all different kinds of eras. So it's just going to be great. He's literally the GOAT head coach in college football. So you can't really go wrong there. So
yeah, I think he's a perfect guy for this. All right, my say hello is baseball. I know you hate this, Camp, but baseball pitchers and catchers report. Let's see, when the show comes out, it'll be 4 days. In 4 days, 2 days after the Super Bowl, pitchers and catchers will report to spring training. There is still countless amounts of free agents out there. I mean, the reigning NL Cy Young winner, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, who could have easily been the World Series MVP. Neither of them have signed, and they're both represented by the same agent. And my dad actually brought this up to me. He thinks that the owners are kind of revolting against this agent because he demands so much money for his clients. He demands large contracts, guaranteed money. And for years he's been doing this. And my dad has a theory that maybe the owners are uniting against him because, like Blake Snell, for example, he's only been offered a contract by the Yankees. That's it. Um, I mean, countless amounts of free agents out there. We'll see if I doubt any of those guys that are represented by Boris get signed by spring training. But I do want to mention there was a very funny interaction with Trevor Bauer on Twitter today where he was like, somebody said, "Hey, you should come to the Phillies," and he was like, "I would love to, but they haven't offered me a contract." And then some guy was like, "You should come put your Sonny Gray in the Cardinals," and he's like, "I'd love to do that. I love Sonny, but they haven't offered me a contract." And he was just getting roasted. Like, yeah, obviously they haven't offered you a contract because you suck. You know, it was pretty funny. But yeah, baseball is, say hello to it because, yeah, football may be over, but we have baseball. So,
Okay, and then now over to last week we didn't do a show, probably for the better in terms of I've cooled down a little bit. In fact, this is kind of like making me upset even having to just do this part of the segment. But so apparently, according to a rodent out of Philadelphia or out of Pennsylvania, we're kissing goodbye winter early, according to that fat fuck Punxsutawney Phil. So he's back. You know, he had his little song and dance on February 2nd. And this time, for the first time in what felt like a millennium, he didn't see his shadow. Usually that coward just walks outside and turns right back around, obviously.
he gets scared. He walks with
Not
his
this
tail
year.
between his legs.
Not this year. Apparently the black shadowy figures didn't scare him. And he didn't see a shadow, which means apparently that winter will be coming to a close earlier than expected, and spring will be here sooner. Now, to all the Punxsutawney Phil followers out there, just keep in mind, Punxsutawney Phil has a 39% conversion rate, if you will, on predicting what's going to happen with winter and spring. 39%. Worse than a coin flip. And also, this is like, we talked about this last year. Hell, we may have talked about it a couple months ago. I remember we had a big Phil conversation a couple months ago for some reason. I don't remember why. Because my Spanish 2 teacher had no idea who Punxsutawney Phil is. God bless her. Wish I could have been in her shoes. But we're here now. People forget it's not the same rodent. You know, Punxsutawney Phil, he's not immortal, which if he was immortal, maybe I'd be on his side a little bit more because that'd be much cooler. But then I'd probably – never mind. I was going to say I'd probably make a trip to Philadelphia or to Pennsylvania, try and do a little traversing. But
say if he's immortal, you can't kill him then. So good luck.
They said the same thing about Achilles. But anyway, so he, it's not the same rodent every year. So like, he's just a fraud. Like, and it's a lineage of frauds. Like, that's why it's 39% wrong. Or right. They all get it wrong. He's worse than a meteorologist, which is fair. He's a rodent. If you got to say one thing that's fair about Punxsutawney Phil, he's a groundhog. Yeah, he probably doesn't know shit about the weather. I won't knock him for that, really. I will knock him for saying that he does know shit about the weather. And I will knock him for being a coward. I will knock him for being a fraud. I will knock him for not being immortal. I will. So, apparently spring's coming early.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but if history tells us anything, that means winter is going to be extra long this year.
Yeah.
There's a 61% chance of winter being long. So, yeah, whatever. I hate it too. Phil. But it is one of the greatest rivalries in the history of the world. Cam versus Punxsutawney Phil. I don't hate him as much as you. I don't have anything personally against him, but I do know he is a coward. And whenever I whenever I saw that he didn't see a shadow this year, I was a little shocked. I was like, there's something fishy going on here. Like, this
Here
is
we go.
somebody paid him off to push an agenda. I don't know who it is. I'm still investigating, but there's some funny business going on here. So, because I know Phil, and I know he gets scared of the smallest things. That means his shadow. So,
and he's crooked. He's crooked. So it shouldn't shock you that if Luke is onto something. What if he might be a liberal plant for climate change? Personally, I believe in climate change, but there's no doubt about it that Phil, no questions asked, would be like on board with that shit. So yeah.
Give him a little bit fancier of dinners, and he'll be like, yeah, you know what? I'll push your agenda to say that winter's slowly being pushed out for warmer temperatures. I don't know. I say something fishy's going on here, and Phil is corrupt and he is a fraud. So, and then my kiss it goodbye. It could be your kiss it goodbye too, Cam. But take off that visor for the people. Cam's hair. Kiss it goodbye.
There it is.
It's actually basically gone.
It's been a week. Yesterday was a week. It is much darker than it was a week ago. You can already
it's
tell.
growing back.
But yeah, antler new guy tradition. Dress up like Arkansas's prettiest ladies. Well, usually that results in you have to get a buzz cut after that. So that's what happened. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I can't say that much about it. So there you go.
Yeah, and then I think we can a little tribute here at the end of the show. We'll dedicate episode 88 of the Show Me Show podcast, the 2-year anniversary show. We'll dedicate it to our beloved furry friends, Cooper and Cody. 2 good boys that lived great lives. Cooper obviously being Cam's dog, and Cody being our good friend of the show, Jake Baldwin's dog. Rest in peace to both of them. Very good boys. I love seeing them every time I could, and it was tough that they both had their time come this week. So
yeah,
I don't want to end the show on a sad note, but I felt like they deserve it. They deserve to have a show in their honor. So
yeah, it was definitely a tough. For me, Cooper passed away Sunday morning. I found out Sunday at about 11 o'clock. I'll say, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday were all pretty tough. Luckily, I've been super busy, but it's tough. It's tough knowing that when I do go home, that my little buddy won't be there. So that is definitely tough. So yeah.
I'm sorry to bring that up, but
it's all right.
All right, everyone, have a great Super Bowl weekend. Just enjoy the Super Bowl, and make sure you take Monday off, because we got to revolt as Americans. We got to revolt. This is our holiday. We got to claim it. If your boss doesn't give you the day off, you have to take the day off yourself, and enjoy the Super Bowl Sunday to the fullest. So we'll see you next week to recap the NFL season.